Greetings and a big welcome to Smartwatch Ticks. We're a YouTube channel on the web at smartwatchticks.com. 5 years, almost 5 years I've been doing this channel, and never, ever have I had a request by more people continuously for a review of this watch. It is finally here. This is the prototype directly from Kospet. I also have a production unit on its way in from Banggood, our sponsor on this one. We have a show link for you in the show notes down below that will tie you into a purchasing page if you're interested in buying this watch after this review. We really hope you'll use our link. I'm going to get you a discount for it. And yeah, really, really nice watch, which you are about to see. Here it is. I took the cover off. Comes packaged in a little bag, and just by picking it up, I can tell you it feels relatively lightweight. It really does. Here you go. There it is. The Kospet Optimus Pro. Really nice ceramic case. Highly reflective edge on the bezel with some etchings of numbers and marks along the side. It's got a cover with bubbles in it. Yours won't have that. I've taken it off, set it all up, and I packaged it all back up for you. That's what it's going to look like when you've got it. And it looks like it's got a little screen protector on it. Sometimes you'll see little bubbles. You can usually work them out. If that's a bother for you, or if you get it scratched, you can always peel that screen protector off too. Let's talk more. We've got a really nice TPU band with holes that are very close together and run a long distance. I've learned after many watches that that's a good thing. If they're too far apart, when you put it on your arm, you can't get the sizing just right for the heart rate sensor to be on your skin and not be cutting off your blood supply. So really good layout with the holes on both sides of a very flexible, removable, folks, TPU band. That also means that this watch is waterproof. We're talking quality here, really great quality. We've got the heart rate sensor here, a whole raised section which is totally different, with a screw here that lets you open this entire back cover to put the SIM card inside. And I presume the way they've designed it, they're getting that waterproof treatment even better. They keep working on this technology to get it better and better with these different kind of designs. We got charging ports, 2 buttons, a camera on the side. Somewhere in here is a microphone and speaker, no doubt. Don't see them offhand, do you? Interesting. Sometimes they're hidden behind the strap. I don't know. Okay, hadn't looked for it before. Well, when you guys see it, let me know. Maybe it's down here. There's a little thing there. Yeah, I think that's the speaker right there. You see the holes right there on the underneath, but it's raised so sound could come out either side. And there's one here and one here. That would be awesome if it's stereo. Maybe someday it will be. Maybe it is now. If any of you guys know when you get yours, let me know, all right? Let us know in the show notes or the comments if you found out if you've got stereo audio. Maybe that's going to enhance the bass coming out. Maybe it's actually a tuned port. Who knows? Wow, fun. I know, I go way too deep. But where else are you going to find this on the web, huh? Anyway, let's get into the box and see what else we've got. I've got a small one and a big one. Inside the small box is a standard USB charging cable. Now, you notice there was no port to plug it in, so we probably have something else in here. And it looks like I got a screwdriver in there too. That's what we use to open up the back to get in to put the SIM card in if you want to use it for phone calls and cellular data. Here's the big box. Inside here, yep, we've got, whoa, then they're kind of tight, a dock and a little silica gel pack to keep it dry. The dock is, no doubt, a magnetic coupled dock with the pins right there. Good and strong. Locks in there tight, and that's where you hook the wire up. So we don't have a 4-pin type of magnetic connector like you see on some of them. You have one dock, so you may consider trying to get an extra dock so you could have one at work or in your car if you want to charge it, because this will be your one point of charging for the device is using that dock. Not magnetically coupled, but there is a little rubber thing here, so it's not going to slide off the table. We also have screen protector in here if you'd like to put another one on. It looks like it's got one already. A little bag of screws, extra screws. A lot of them, actually. Almost like you'd need them for taking off the whole back. But there really shouldn't be a reason to need to take the back off. They all look like they're the same screw anyway, so you get lots of extras. And a little manual. And it says Kospet Optimus. Remember, there's an Optimus and an Optimus Pro. This is the Pro we're looking at, and as far as I understand, the only difference is in the memory on board. This one's got 2 gigabytes of RAM and 16 gigabytes. I'm sorry, this one's got 3 gigabytes of RAM and 32 gigabytes of memory for the Pro, and 2 gigabytes and 16 gigabytes for the standard. So those are your differences between the two models. The Pro's got more RAM and more memory. Okay. Ooh, that's a nice watch face. Look at that. How to use a SIM card, powering it up, a hotkey, okay, a USB data cable, basic information. When you first start it up, you're going to see all of this where you set up your parameters for fitness and you have the QR codes to scan and set up your connection to the Tethering app. Picture driven. Here's what it's going to look like on an iPhone and on an Android phone. It works on both. And some of the screens you're going to see. System software, how you set the dials, long standby mode setting. Okay. There you go. Now, one thing I see is missing from this picture is a little gear up here in the top. We'll talk about that when we get to it. I think the manual was produced before some of the feedback that we've been giving them in the background came through about the need for options between an always-on standby mode or a twist your wrist just to turn the time on. And there's now a gear on this particular screen that gives you that option. And some questions, common problems, and so forth. And that's it. There's just the English manual in here, no Chinese version. But again, this is the prototype watch directly from Kospet. What? What's that? That's Mr. Chick's brand new ring. What? Of course it's a wearable technology ring. No, I'm not talking about it today, but if you subscribe, you'll find out that on this ring, you can get data like this. Last night's sleep information, activity goals, and a readiness factor that's based on sleep balance, previous night's records, heart rate variability, resting heart rate. Oh my gosh, all kinds. But you got to wear it for like 2 weeks to a month to accumulate averages before you can even talk about it. And, well, you're just going to start seeing it in the videos until I get a chance to tell you about this incredible ring. But today we're talking about the Kospet watch. Now, we're going to get back to this. I've got it all charged up already. So I'm just going to clear the field out of here, and we're going to run through this and give it a go. Nice, big, easy to see buttons on the side. Going to press the top one, which is going to activate the watch. It's giving us a Kospet logo, and as it boots up, I want to give a shout out to Fuzz. Fuzz is one of our viewers, and this guy, I can't get them all on the screen at the same time. This guy got his watch before any of the rest of us. Don't know how he did it. He got it even before I got my prototype directly. And he's reminding us that there's a firmware update needed before we actually begin doing the review. And I appreciate that heads up, because he's absolutely right. But let me tell you, I know a lot of you want to know about this thing now, and I'm going to give it to you now. But if you want to stick around all the way to the very, very end, I'm going to go through the entire firmware update process, the over-the-air OTA push, and what you got to do. It's a little tricky on this dual processor watch. You got to do it kind of twice and can't mess it up. So going to save that for the very end, but because Fuzz told us about it, we are going to definitely cover that action for you. But right now, what you're looking at, stop looking at my ring. What you're looking at is the updated firmware on the Kospet Optimus Pro, ready to go. So this is a little while down the road. We've done quite a bit of stuff getting it all ready for you. Let's go through the basic operation. Once again, these new watches are running Android 7.1.1, and they've all got a certain look and feel, sometimes slightly different layout. You start out in a watch face, and as you know, most of you know, you can press and hold on the screen, and it goes into a little picture, a little thumbnail, that you can then slide and look at other watch faces that are available. Okay, and when you get all the way to the very, very end, you have this little symbol where the little one up in the corner resets everything on your watch so that it rebuilds the directory of all of the faces in the order you have them in. And the little plus sign, when you're on Wi-Fi, ties you into a server that lets you download additional watch faces, of which I've downloaded one, which right here we're going to use. This is a special face that matches perfectly with the ambient mode face that we're going to be demonstrating here shortly. And we have a video up on the creation of this one by a 10-year-old boy in England. Amazing. Pierce Collins. Hey, Pierce. Hey, Tim. These guys are awesome. They're great. Where am I? I'm in the watch faces. Okay, we're on the first screen here. If I slide down, you get into kind of widgets across the top. This one gives you your date and time and your battery level and a circle and a percentage down there. This screen's important because it's got a lot of good stuff in it. This is your brightness. There's super bright and it's washing out the picture. Here is dim and it's really, really dim. I can't do a video on that. This one is like halfway. It's going to be a little washed out as we go through it. I usually try to install an app called Display Brightness that gives you a little slider on the side or on the top, wherever you want to put it, that you can exactly adjust the brightness to your needs. Don't have it in here yet, so if it's a little washed out, I apologize for that. This is the twist your wrist to see the time controller. And I know a lot of you want to know how smooth is it, how responsive is it on all of these watches. So later, this is a review of this one today. We're going to do a comparison video of all of these new dual processor watches like the Thor 5 and the Lemfo LEM9 and of course this one. And we'll check that on each of them to see which ones give you a better, quicker, more accurate response when you twist your wrist. But for now I have it turned on so I can demo some of the features of the ambient mode to you. Up here is your sound on and off, silent or loud. Airplane mode, cellular data if you have a SIM card in it, and location services for GPS. When you tap that one, you're turning GPS on so you can get high accurate position information. Bluetooth on and off here for when you're tethering to your phone, and Wi-Fi on and off toggle as well. It's on now, and I am on Wi-Fi. I've got it all set up for that. Okay, this is like a clean the screen kind of a thing. And it's just part of Android 7. We've seen that before. And then a music player. This is for the music that you have installed. You have 15 levels of volume. And it's generally pretty loud. We'll play with the sound recorder later to check that out. And then one more swipe gets you into weather. When you're on the server and you connect, it's going to download your location and the weather. And here's the weather in my area. And if you've noticed, they've updated now so you have both centigrade and Fahrenheit. So if you're trying to learn your conversions, you can get a good feel that 28 is 82 and 24 is 75 and and so forth. And it gives you the date and time, and you can refresh it and all of that stuff. And so those are the panels of widgets across the top that you got to by swiping down from the watch faces that you changed by pressing and holding. With me? Great. Go to the left, you get notifications when you're paired to your phone, or if there's notifications from within the watch generated through Wi-Fi connection. You'll oftentimes get update notifications for your apps and stuff. That's going to be here. When you go to the right, swiping to the left, so you go to the panel on the right, you're getting into your app drawer, and these are all the different installed apps that come with the watch. I haven't added any at all to this one. So you see there's quite a few of them. We will walk through those in a little bit. And if you swipe one more, you get into a fitness area that has a few different fitness activities. Now, this is also an app that you'll see in the app drawer with color pictures and everything. But this is a quick way to get here. We'll go through that as well. When you swipe up, you get into a different kind of a fitness thing, the always tracking step count process. And you drop right into this weekly total. And of course, I haven't been using it. We just got it, but it'll show you bars on here of how close you're meeting your goal, days of the week. And then you get your actual individual current daily step count, distance traveled, computed by an average cadence and number of steps multiplied by distance to kilometers, meaning it's not really that accurate because it's not tied to GPS or to your true cadence or step distance. And then calories burned, which is probably even more confusing because this has to be somehow figured out from your activity level, which should be taking into consideration your heart rate for your age, gender, height, weight. Yeah. All of these numbers are just rough guidelines to let you know if you've been active, I would say. If you want specific details, meaningful numbers from here, you're not going to get it unless you get a really sophisticated watch that lets you fine-tune your own personal data. But you've got that there on all of these Android watches simply by swiping up into this whole fitness area. Okay? It's all based on pedometer step count. I bring that up because it's an important factor that we're going to get to right now. Why don't we talk about it? I'm going to take us all the way over here to the fitness area. This may be new to some of you. It's old hat for a lot of us because we constantly talk about this. But there's two ways of computing your fitness when you're doing things that involve distance, like running, walking, cycling, hiking, those kind of things. Not ping pong and baseball and football. Those are activity things that get your adrenaline going and your heart pumping, but they don't cover distance. But the ones that do cover distance can calculate it one of two different ways. They can give you your step count distance, which is what we saw in that bottom section there, which I told you is not going to be that accurate over a long distance. If you wanted to go 5 kilometers stepping in a run, and it's only doing it by counting your steps and multiplying by your step distance, which has not been put in there accurately, you're going to get bogus data. Or it can be done by incorporating the GPS module in here, which gives you your exact latitude and longitude on Earth, and can be used not only to plot your distance through a curved walking process, but can also, using calculus, figure out your speed. And give you your basic pace or your speed in miles per hour or kilometers per second or whatever you want. You see, I pushed that go button and we got into this screen, and it's starting already to try and calculate information for a run. Now, I'm not touching the diode, so I'll put my finger there. That should activate this and you'll get your heart rate. This is your distance travel. That little blue icon is a representative icon of location. You've seen that before. Now, you also have calories burned, kilometers per hour, and number of kilometers or time per kilometers, I guess. Anyway, all of this is being computed using your pedometer inside of here. So if I were to wiggle this thing up and down enough and get it going, even just sitting in the same spot, it should start calculating some distance here. Yeah, it's just going to take too long to get them because that's in hundredths of a kilometer, which is going to be a lot of steps. But it'll do it off of your step count, even though I'm sitting still. Conversely, if I were moving in a car or something, and I were tracking it with GPS, it would probably start to show miles traveled, and I'm not even walking, but it's not even looking at my rhythm. We know which one it is using by a couple of key characteristics I'm going to show you now that apply to all these watches. It's an easy way to tell whether the watch you're interested in supports GPS fitness integration or not. Step 1. When we went into it, it went right into it. It didn't ask for you to turn on GPS or anything. That's a red flag that it's just using pedometer. Item 2. Right here, the little blue icon, if it's tied in with GPS, it'll be flashing as it's working to acquire GPS. And when it gets the signal, it should go solid. But when it's trying to find the signal, it's going to be a flashing blue icon. Okay? If it's just based on pedometer count, it's not going to be anything but solid. And part 3, and this is the easiest one, folks, start any activity. Swipe over to the right where you have the pause or the finish. Touch the finish button. It's going to react one of two ways based on the version of the app that's in here. The one that integrates with the GPS, you have to press and hold the finish button, and you'll see a little red circle go all the way around the finish button, and when it gets to the top, boom, you exit. It's a more advanced thing, so you don't accidentally finish something you didn't want to stop, okay? However, if it does not integrate with GPS, you just simply touch the finish button and it's over. Then you know that the system that you've got currently in the watch does not integrate with GPS. I'm belaboring this point because rumor has it, and we've seen it in the past on earlier non-dual processor watches, that through a firmware update, they can change this particular program, this particular fitness program. Because actually, it's nothing more than an app. It's right in here. When you launch it here, like I said, you get exactly the same thing you had way over on the side with pretty color pictures on it. But it's the same activities, all of them. It's the same app. So when you get into it, rope skipping, this of course is not going to have GPS. It's not even going to show distance. But when you hit the finish, it comes out of it exactly the same way. If it's updated, when you hit the finish, nothing will happen. You have to press and hold. Okay, we've gone through the whole fitness thing, and sadly to report, but it's the same as on all the others, the dual processor watches, all of them, do not yet integrate the fitness with the GPS. I'm pretty darn sure when they decide to do it for one, they're going to do it for all, but it's going to be up to the watch company to send that push out. You see, somebody writes this core firmware and Android 7.1.1 implementation on a watch. Big company somewhere does that, sends that to everybody, and then each of the watch companies do a little bit of their own overlay by adding in their own special watch faces and stuff like that. That one takes us to the watch faces. They're custom ones with their own logo on them. Remember, that one's downloaded from the server. But these kind here will be different on all the different watches because they come in on that firmware update that's added by the manufacturer. Bottom line, what I'm getting to is the big boys, Z-Blaze and Kospet and Makibes and I don't know, who else am I forgetting? Any of these guys that are making the dual processor watches, it's going to be incumbent on them to push out the firmware update that's going to create that link between GPS and fitness. So you want to make sure you're buying a good quality watch, and I recommend you're buying it from a stable place like Banggood. because they've got the depth of inventory to ensure that they're going to be able to push along, the most up-to-date product for you. Wow, we are going long on this one. So sorry, but we'll make this one like the anchor of everything you need to know about these watches. All right, we have covered a lot so far. We've covered all of this stuff and how you get into it, right? We've covered all of that stuff based on step count. We've covered the fact that over here, all of these activities are based on step count and not GPS. And we found that notifications are on this side. Let's press and hold the top button, because I got to show you this face. We're about to get into the app drawer now, and there's a circle square up at the top. What the heck is that? This is a way to change the profile of an app when it's on the screen in your watch. Generally, the third-party apps, the ones that are integrated here, are usually designed to work in the circle anyway. But if you put in something like a browser or whatever, you can change the aspect ratio, and that's really important. When an app is in a circle and it's actually meant to be a square and it's too big, the menu that's usually in the upper left or right corner are not visible. The Google Play Store is a classic example of that. When you're in circle, you can't hit the thing over here to go and change your settings or check your apps or whatever. You only have that search bar, and even then you don't get to touch the search. So by doing this, it reduces the size of an app so it fits perfectly in the circle. The corners are visible. You have black on the bottoms and the tops, and everything is smaller, but the app is available. So rule of thumb is, leave it on a square when you're putting in a new app to make sure you see everything. Go into your menus, set your settings the way you want them to be, and then come back here and tap that. And it's really easy. You just press and hold, you change it, you hit cancel, boom, and it'll shift automatically the app that you're on. It won't leave. You'll come right back to where you were, okay? Really good trick. I'll leave it in the square. While we're here, this is how you would power things off, reboot the watch, go into this power save mode. There's so many power save modes on these things now. This is one of them. And recent task is where you can close out anything that has been running that you've been using, again, to free up some memory on the watch as well. That's pressing and holding that button. The bottom button now, and by the way, when you're deep into something, this one will toggle the watch off and back on again, in this case coming right back to the watch face. This one will just take you home. If you're way deep into something, it'll take you back. I think it's the back button. And long press on this one is how we can enter into the what you call the long standby mode. Two ways to get into that, either through an app or through the long press and hold here. You want to go there now? Then we'll come back and look at the apps. I know, a lot of you are interested in this. Okay. Remember I showed you in the manual that there was a missing little gear up here? And here it is. Now it's here, and it's a setting for always time. Now, always time refers to the fact of whether the watch, when you go into, when it's just on a watch face, whether the thing will time out and the screen will go black, or whether it will always stay on. Of course, if it always stays on, it's going to use more power. But if it's off and on, you don't have to worry about it being on at night. You can just like twist your wrist, quickly see the time, and it'll go out. So there are good reasons why you want to use both modes at different times, and now they've given you the option for that. I'm going to leave it off for now to show you how it works. This is a dual processor watch. We are about to reboot the watch from Android into bracelet mode, I'm going to call it, okay? That reboot process takes just a few seconds. However, coming out of it, going from bracelet mode back to an Android watch takes a lot longer because you literally have to shut down and completely reboot the watch from scratch. We're going to see that. So you can either bail out of this if you decide you don't want to do it, or we can accept it with the setting of always time being off, and there you go. Counting the seconds. You can always look at the time on your YouTube thing to see how long it took. It just vibrated, and there we are. That was it. You can go home now. You see how fast it times out? We have 3 screens here. Now, this is one of the big differences between these dual processor watches, that they're each putting in their own flavor of time faces, of these faces. It's quick, so I'm going to have to press and talk about them. Up here in the top, we've got the heart rate, and it's really, really tiny. I think it's showing 79. Right here, we've got the step count, and then the calories burned based on that step count, and then you've got the current time. Okay? Now, you saw me press, it comes on, and then it goes off. But if I press, and I press again while it's lit up, I go into another page that's going to stay on now, that's showing step count, calories burned, and distance traveled. Okay, your basic pedometer information. And then the fun one. Press it once again, and I come to an always-on, continuous monitoring heart rate on this particular screen now. And it takes a while for it to get your heart rate. Probably 2 reasons. The low power consumption that they're striving for in this bracelet mode. There, we got it. And the fact that it's integrating several different readings together before it settles in on one. And then it's a moving curve that's showing you continuously what it's deriving as your heart rate. Now, the sweet thing about this is it literally is always on. And speaking of always on, you haven't seen it on yet. So let's put the watch on. Really like this band. See how I can have it kind of loose? A click more, and it's kind of tighter. Now, excuse my marked up arm. I've been doing yard work too as a mundane human beyond doing all of these watches. So I got cuts and bruises and things. They will go away. It's now recentering itself and recalculating heart rate since I took it off and put it on my arm. Good thing it's doing that, because otherwise we'd be worried if it's reading the heart rate of thin air, right? So there you go. I now have this watch in this mode with this on until the battery runs down. No, I don't know how long that is, but I'm going to try to do some comparable battery testing with the other watches in the same category when we do that comparison video. It should last a long time, though, in this mode. So I can toggle between that, and that. Those are the 3 different screens that you have access to. And on this one, it's going to flip off and keep it black unless I went into that gear and turned always time on before I went into this mode. I can't get into it now. To get there again, I literally got to go back into Android, go there, turn it on, and then go into this mode again. So you got to choose up front if you're going to want it turning on or off when you twist your wrist or what. Okay, how about that then? Here we are. I'm kind of down, and I'm going to look at the time. Okay, let's try that again. Boom. Okay, you got a feel for it? Looks pretty quick, pretty responsive. It also seems to kind of stay on or come on if I wiggle just a little bit, wasn't it? Yeah, some of them are rated on velocity, and some of them have to do with angle. See, there it didn't. There it is, a little long delay. Yeah, a little flaky, but generally responsive. All right, check the time down below. I'm going to have you count the seconds. I'm going to leave this mode. I'm going to make sure I have it on a screen that's on. I'm going to press and hold the side button, and when I say go, see how long it is before we come back to an Android watch. You ready? 1, 2, 3, go. Pressing and holding. And rebooting. Now, I really, really wish they could figure this one out, and maybe because this is new technology, they eventually will. But it would be great somehow if this could be held in suspense, like on a Windows computer. You can have off or you can have sleep mode. It'd be nice to have Android somehow in sleep mode where everything is kind of loaded in memory and you reboot it. Ready? Ready? Watching the time. Come on. Now. That's how long it took if you calculate that. Somebody put that in the comments because I'm not timing it, but it would be nice to know. How long did it take just to get use of your watch so you could go check the weather or run something, you know? Again now, if I want to go into long standby, press and hold that, or I could press this one. I can come up here, I can turn that on, and now if I hit the check mark, and from here on, every time I go in there, the time screen will stay on. And that's how I like to run mine. That segues us nicely into the app drawer. The Assistant is not the Google Assistant that you're used to. This is the Tethering Assistant for connecting to your phone with the Y Watch 2 app. I got a whole video up on that entire process, so I'm not going to go into detail other than to tell you, you use a QR code to connect. And once you have the app in your phone, it's going to give you a little window, and you're going to put that window over here to connect the phone, and that's how you tether the phone to the app. And you'll see all that in that video. When you've got it there, you also have this remote capture, music control to play music on your phone from your watch. That other music controller was to play the music on your watch, okay? Find Your Device will let you ring your phone and make sure that you can hear it and find your phone if you want to use that feature. That's all in that Assistant. Long standby we looked at. Now let's talk the phone stuff. Phone, contacts, and messaging, those three have to do with the SIM card in this watch. You have to put in a GSM, that's the network, capable SIM card. In the USA, that's T-Mobile or AT&T, or a third-party kind of a carrier that uses their networks, like Cricket, one of those. And that's mandatory. I mean, you cannot use Verizon or Sprint or any of the other networks. Now, also bad news for this watch and all watches in the class of Android 7.1 or 7, and most 6 even. You got to go all the way back to the old Android 5.1 watches to have Bluetooth calling. Now, Bluetooth calling is where you have a special app in here, and you would connect using that app through your phone to make a phone call out of your phone using the SIM in your phone. We're all kind of used to that concept. It's called Bluetooth calling, but it's not supported in any of these watches, not yet. So if that's something you really want in a watch, well, you've been watching the wrong video, folks. All of these are the wrong video for you. Look at some of the watch reviews, like the Lympho LEM4 Pro is a good one. That's the big square rectangular one. It's got Bluetooth calling. Watch that video. You'll understand what I'm talking about. You don't have that in any of these watches, unfortunately. Settings? Yeah, all right, let's go quickly through here. You have your overall sound, and this is where you can adjust the different volume levels and whatnot. You have the display, and here is where we have another always time. Let's show you that one now. Okay, you can set your sleep time, by the way, from as little as 15 seconds to as long as 30 minutes. I'll leave it for that for the review. You can turn on always time. We'll see that when we turn the watch off. And you can turn on notifications bright screen. And then my understanding of that botched English phrase is when you get a notification pushed from your phone to the watch, it will wake up the watch in Android mode, not in the bracelet mode, and you'll be able to see what the notification is, so you don't miss anything. So it's a feature that you can turn on or off if you don't want to be disturbed, to have the screen light up on notification. All right, I'm going to leave settings right now. Going to go back to display, back to settings, back to the screen, and I'm going to turn the screen off. Watch carefully. Do you see a little flash right there? Yeah. You see something really soft there? That's the ambient display. That's that same display. Oh, there it just came back. There's the actual watch face we've selected. There's a little flash of a nice bright display of the ambient mode, and then it goes dim. And I don't know why they've made it so dim. This is one of the things on all of these that I'm really disappointed in. It is so dim, you have to be pretty much in a dark room to see it. If you are in the daylight like we are right now, and I'm not even near the sun, you can hardly tell. You see it just, it's really weird. You get it just the right angle and it's just going to be flipping out, going on and off and on and off. So I got to kind of hold it at a different angle for you. Now, the reflections are brighter than the screen. What I would love to see in that always time setting is another entry that says bright or dim, so that it would either stay bright like you see it when it flickers at the very beginning. If it would stay that brightness when you want it readable outside, that would be great. When you want it dim for nighttime or the theater or something, you could set it and it would do what it's doing right now. But I find this too dim to be functional. And with that said, I'll mention that the non-dual processor watches, like the HOPE and the HOPE Lite, which are the comparable watches to this Optimus line, have much brighter ambient screens in this mode. And if you really want one that you're going to be able to see outside, and you don't need the bracelet mode capability that we've got in the dual processor one, and you want to spend less money, seriously consider the HOPE or HOPE Lite. Got reviews on both of those up, instead of going with the Optimus line. Okay, that's just my own personal feeling. I think a lot of other folks feel the same way, though, that this ambient display is just too dim. But there it is, and the way we got to that was in Settings, in Display, and we turned it on right there. If you turn it off, when the screen goes off, it stays off. So we have two different kind of ambient time controls, one for bracelet mode and now one for Android mode. That's it for display, right? Yep, nothing else there. Your app list style is, we're in an arc because it makes it easier to see, but I mean in a linear, but you can do it like this too, where you have a time and you have everything in a circle. You don't have a rotating bezel like on the Gear things, but it's got kind of the layout that you've seen on the Galaxy Gear. And now I got to find where my settings are and change it back so I don't miss anything. It's an arc. It's really linear. The arc used to go kind of sideways, where they would go in an arc. This is actually just straight up and down. Connection is where we have the Bluetooth connection, Wi-Fi, and yes, you can set this and most of these watches up in a Wi-Fi hotspot. Quick overview on that. What's going on there is if you have a SIM card in here that has data capability with your cellular plan, you can turn this thing into a Wi-Fi hotspot. So you could take your watch and let's say your tablet with you somewhere. Put this in Wi-Fi hotspot, connect your tablet to your watch as if you were connecting it to Starbucks or home or office, instead connect it to the watch. And this becomes your node for feeding the internet and whatnot to your tablet. The drawback from that is two. One, it's a heavy eater of power on your watch. You're not going to get very long out of it, but if you really needed to check an urgent email or something, you can do it. And two, the data speeds are really not that good, even though these are 4G watches, supposedly. By the time you get that data passing through it in Wi-Fi hotspot mode, it's crawling. So don't expect to watch YouTube or something like that if you're doing the Wi-Fi hotspot. Wi-Fi is where you just basically put it on the network. Your airplane mode, which we also saw, is that symbol that you can get to easier from pulling down the screen, right? And here's your GPS, which we also had that icon for location services. That's all here in Connect. This is the gesture, and this is the twist your wrist to see the time that you can turn on or off. So if you're going to go to bed at night, you can turn that off, either here or on the icon, and you can make sure you have the always time turned off if you are in the off mode, and the screen will be black, and then you can rest assured that you're not going to accidentally turn the screen on if you're taking this to bed to sleep with you. Why would you take the bed to sleep with you? To accumulate sleep data, right? But guess what? There is no sleep monitoring app on any of these Android 7 watches, and I haven't heard of a good third-party app substitute that you can put on them. I like my ring. Anyway, this gesture is something that you can consider if you're going to be in the theater or someplace where you want it constantly off, as long as you set the always time off as well. Another power savings. I'm really not going to go into these because I don't understand them. We'll look at it. Standby intelligent power and battery saver, and it's showing you what apps you've been using that are using the most power and how long it's going to last before it dies. It says 9 hours left in Android mode. I'm at 95% for the time I've been using it. Just mess around with that. You'll learn about it. Languages and inputs. I'm going to show you all the languages at the end of this video because part of the firmware update process involves completely rebooting the watch with a factory restore. And when you do that, the opening screen, you get to see all of the languages. Date and time is self-explanatory. Resetting the equipment lets you completely clear out your watch if you want to, so you can give it away when you decide you want a next one, which a lot of folks do. You can uninstall your applications that you've put in, and then you have more, which is where you have all your different accounts, Google Play services. The background cleaner is yet another way of saving both memory and or storage space and power, basically, because you're cleaning apps out of the running system. Third power app adapter. This is a new thing for when you're running certain third-party apps like Chrome browser and it's not rendering right on the screen. And you're playing with making it circle or square. We showed you how to do that with the top button. The third-party app adapter will tweak it. It's the easiest thing I can tell you, and make it look better, because we had reports that wasn't working well. Storage is how much we've got. 6.83 gigabytes has been used of the 32 gigabytes that are available on this one. And RAM, I'm using that much out of 3 gigabytes, 2.9 it says total memory. So this is kind of a quick look at your storage and memory. Your notifications, it's showing you all of the different apps that can send notifications from within the watch to the watch, which is different than the notifications coming from your phone to the watch, which you do through tethering. Again, we're in Android 7.1.1 in a standalone smartwatch phone. So it literally is a little phone, you know, a full-on Android device. And so you have your own notifications from there. The app settings, this is really good because this is where you get into all of your different app information on how you set everything up. And you know, just like what you do on your phone. And then data saver, which is different than your power saving kind of stuff. This is for when you're using your cellular and you have a restricted data plan. You can use this to minimize that background chatter that sometimes eats up a lot of your memory. And finally, about the watch, and this is important to show you because it's going to come up here at the very end. You scroll all the way down to your build number. Take a look at that number because that's gives you an idea of how modern your firmware is. And right now, all of these companies with these dual processor watches are scrambling to continue to update the firmware because it's been kind of buggy, actually, getting this whole thing to work right. This is the latest version after the update, and I'll show you the previous version. We'll look carefully at what it did and what changed, if anything, after the update at the end of this video. And that is settings. Cool. All right, take a drink of water. It's been too long. Okay, the Google Play Store, and they've really been taking liberties recently of changing the icon all over the place. Google has a pretty strict icon requirement for that one, but these are unlicensed versions of Google Android, so just look for the word Play Store as opposed to the word App Store, which is totally different. This is a Chinese implementation of 4 or 5 typical apps you could download without having to log into Google, like Facebook and Twitter and stuff like that. whereas Play Store, and they don't say Google Play Store, they just say Play Store, is the authentic Google Play Store. Now here's an example of an app in a square. If I press and hold, change that, come out of here, it just expanded it. But look how my button's almost off the screen. Sometimes they're completely off, and you can't activate it, even though you can put stuff in. So you switch it to the square, you do what you got to do. Now look here, I could put in my information, but I don't have the button. And I can't, oh, okay, in this case I can scroll up. Sometimes you can't even scroll up, so you're stuck without the button. Always play with that toggle, because usually one condition or the other is going to get you what you want. Not going to go there right now, but that's how you'd get into the Play Store. Voice search is your OK keyword for Google that you can activate and do whatever kind of searching you want. Heart rate monitor ties to the one in the back, and it looks a little different than what we see in the ambience display. I actually like that bracelet mode better because the digits are larger. But nonetheless, here this is, and it shows you your last readings across the board right there. Back here, fitness, we just went through that whole app. Weather is what you see when you swipe down and go all the way over, and you can set different cities and whatnot. Then we get to camera. All right, let's run through this. Camera is on the side, right over here. There I am. Okay, but I need to take a picture, so I'll do that. Take a little picture, and I'm going to run a video. This is a video test of looking at my hand and speaking loudly so we can compare how well it plays. And we stopped that. So let's run through this part real quick. Here's the video. This is a video test of looking at my hand and speaking loudly so we can compare how well it plays. Very nice. What was that at the end? Very nice. Looks really good. A couple of things that we like to check is, can we double tap and make it bigger? Can we pinch and zoom? And we do that while it's playing. This is a video test of looking at my hand and speaking loudly so we can compare how well it plays. So we don't have any way of changing the aspect ratio or size of a recorded video on here. Of course, you can export that in a variety of different ways and then mess around with it externally. But on the camera, you can't do much with it on video. However, here's a picture. By the way, if I go into details, I can show you the size. And when you multiply all that out, I think you're coming up with like 8 gigabytes, right? So good size picture. Double tap, zooms, and you can move around. Double tap again, and then you're up there, and double tap returns it. Pinch and zoom allows you to go even closer. Is that a hole in my ring? I think it's just a reflection. Wow, you can see the electrons moving. Cool. Okay, so we have the gallery we're actually in as well here, and we can press it once back and you're back into the camera, and press it again, we're out of there. Camera and gallery. Music player is basic. Sound recorder, I really don't need to do that because you just heard the sound. File manager is where you get access to all of your different files. And clock skin is where you can drop in your own third-party custom designed watch faces. We got lots of videos up on doing that and even making that. And that's all in File Manager. A stock browser comes with it. A little calculator. Clock is for alarm clocks. Downloads is hardly ever used. It's just a place to download into, I guess. Your calendar is basic. You just get the monthly thing. You can switch to a different day, but you're not getting like the whole Google Calendar information, which is really sad. Google Maps is here, and it ties into GPS, and it works fine. And like I said, App Store goes into the server that connects to China that lets you download these particular 4 apps directly to the watch. That are all the installed apps on here. So all in all, we've pretty much covered the watch. Let's take a look at the watch faces as we summarize here. We can go back to the very beginning one. This is a Kospet designed watch face. All of these are that you're about to see. This is a really good watch. It's waterproof. The band is removable simply by pulling and taking it out. You can replace. I have to give you the measurements on that. We'll do that in the comparison video, weights and dimensions and all of that stuff between all of them. You've got a few different watch faces. This is the beefier one with 32 gigabytes of storage. So if you're thinking of taking movies along with you or all the music in the world that you own, you can do it on this watch. You can probably save a few dollars. I'm not sure how many, but a little bit of money by going to the 2 gigabyte RAM, 16 gigabyte a storage version of the Optimus, but the Optimus Pro, the one that we're looking at here, has more RAM and more storage for more money. Still not sure if having more RAM actually makes the battery run out faster than if you have smaller amount of RAM. Logic would dictate that that might be the case. By the way, that shows the edge-to-edge screen really good. The bezel comes right over and drops down, and there might be a little hair of a white circle around there, a couple of millimeters, but not much at all. Anyway, about memory, and this is where you can put your own picture in the background if you want to make your own watch face. About memory and RAM, really don't know, and I'm not sure anybody's done any testing on that. This is kind of a fun one for winter. So I don't. 2 gigabytes is plenty for a watch. 3 is okay if you want, but I wouldn't be getting it for the RAM if you really need the 32 gigabytes of storage. That would be a deciding point for you. Again, it's kind of washed out here, so this is a good one to show you as a last thing. Oops, that's the twist your wrist. There you go. This is full brightness. Now, we saw that it was kind of a rotating snowflake. And look at my background lighting. It's almost completely off when this finally adjusts the camera so you can see the screen. This is super bright, going to be easy to see outdoors. One important note is the brightness change does not affect the ambient mode at all. It's going to be the same brightness irrespective of what you set this on. Oh, I have it turned off. Oh, no, there it is. There it is. Okay, you see how bright it is right there? And there's the regular one. Now I'm going to make it full brightness. And there's the ambient. It didn't change at all, but that thing is really bright. So, in terms of deficiencies, they really need to work on brightening up the ambient in both this and the bracelet mode to make it usable outdoors, in my opinion. And if they can figure out a way to reboot between the two modes faster, especially coming out of the ambient bracelet mode and back into the Android mode, make that quicker, that would be a whole lot better. Grabbing the thing, that would be a whole lot better. Other than that, I like these. These are really good, solid, well-built watches. You can see over 4 to 5 years of evolution in watch design. You want to see it in water? Really? Okay. Man, what'd I do for you guys? All right, let's slide over and do an outdoor run. So we have like a stopwatch running or something. Come here, guppies. We have a visitor for you. Gently drop you in. Whoops, it's upside down. Sorry, guppies. There we go. Okay. Sure, I'll dunk my ring underwater too. Why not? You got to hear about this. This is really a cool ring. All right, come here, paperwork, one more time. Actually, there'll be one more time a little bit later, but to remind you that this is available through Banggood. I got a hold of one hand now. The other one's wet. Yeah, the Kospet Optimus Pro dual chip system, 3 gig, 25 gig, 4G, LTE, smartwatch phone with an 8 megapixel camera. Sweet, sweet watch. Thank you for watching, everybody. Coming up right away now is the review of how you go about installing the new firmware. When you get your watch, there's most likely going to be a push for updating the firmware. And it's really good to know how to do it. And if you keep watching, you will learn how. We really appreciate your subscription and, of course, using our sponsors when you're able to buy the products. Even if you buy a different watch, if you go through our link to begin with and then say, I'd rather have the Thor 5, that's fine. Just start your search through the links that we have in the show notes, and you're helping us out here. All right, you ready? Here you go. Now, as promised, for you diehards who like to see everything, or your beginners who'd like to know exactly how to do this, I'm going to show you that piece we talked about earlier on updating the firmware using OTA, over-the-air push notification, on your brand new Kospet Optimus Pro. First of all, let me show you something. Here's an email came in from Fuzz. I love that. Fuzz, Smartwatch ticks me too. He was answering dialogue back and forth. I got the Kospet Optimus Pro yesterday. It's pretty good, but still some things suck. Remember to update the firmware before the review, Mr. Ticks, as some features are missing on the original firmware. Cheers. Well, that led me to wonder what's missing. So, I've already got it booted up and set up Wi-Fi and turned that on. And that's to this point. But other than that, it's right out of the box. So this is all what you're seeing now precedes everything you just watched at the beginning. I'm kind of starting here, but putting it at the end. So I'm going to carefully take that off so I can hide it and put it back on for you. Here's one of the original watch face that comes on. As you can see, it's at medium brightness, and I do have Wi-Fi connected. Now, here's what happened to me. As soon as I connected Wi-Fi, I got a push notification says wireless update. A new version is available, and I could open it and go right in there and start the process. If you get this, well, it's a lot easier. If you don't get this, and some of you won't, you want to follow me from here. I'm going to go over from the top down to settings, go in settings all the way down to the bottom, about watch. I'm going to go in about watch, and I'm going to make note of this thing, the build number. Check the date, 2019, May 9th. You see that? That's the version number V1.4. If yours comes with that version, you're going to get an update. And in a moment, we're going to see what the update goes to. It's always a good idea to check first to see if you have an update waiting. Before we do that, though, let's see what possibly could be different. One thing is that always time. When we go in here to settings, and we go to display, and you have that always time feature. First of all, do you have that? You may even have an earlier version of the firmware. When you update, eventually you should get this. When we activate that, and we come back to the watch face, did you see it flash bright for a second and then go dim? This is that typical analog always time display we've seen on the original Android 7.1.1 watches, now reincorporated into the dual processor watch. Nothing different there, except the fact that you get a bright flash and then it filters it really, really dim. Way too dim to see outside. One suggestion I have, and I keep putting it out in the background and now here in the foreground for all of you to hear, we need a bright/dim option so that when you turn it off, it could stay bright like that, or you can select dim and it could go dim. So if you're going to go outside in the daylight, you could at least see the time in the always time mode. What good is it if you can't see it, right? And that, in my estimation, should be something that they add right here after always time. Bright, dim. Simple. But it's not there yet. Okay, so the other thing that we are always concerned about is in the fitness and whether we have GPS integration. There's 2 or 3 ways you can easily tell. I've covered this many times before, but I know some of you skip ahead and back, so maybe you haven't seen it. You pick something that normally would use GPS, like Outdoor Run. You tap it, and you hit go. If it has integration, it should stop you right there and make sure you have location services on. If you do, and it proceeds anyway, you should see this little blue icon flashing. That means it's trying to acquire GPS. And the easiest way to tell folks is if you slide over to the right to stop the session, and the finish button, if you have the old version that does not use GPS and you touch it, it'll exit. If you have the new version, you have to touch and hold. You'll see a little ring go around. It takes about 2 seconds before it will exit. Old software works like that. Okay, new software, you'd have to press and hold, and that's the one that has the GPS integration. So we've confirmed that in this earlier version of the firmware, we do not have GPS integration. We have the original black and white watch face that gets bright and dims quickly, and that's what it looks like. And then the third thing that we want to check is way back here in the long standby. First of all, do you have a gear here? If you do, you have a setting for always time off or on. That means if you twist your wrist, you'll see the time, and if you don't, it will be completely black. Great for at night. If you want it always on in the time mode, remember there's going to be 3 screens, 2 of which will always be always on, but the third one that's just basically time, you can toggle it on and off right there. For our test, I'm just going to turn it off. Okay, then you hit the check mark. It basically is rebooting the watch, and it's going to come back in the long standby mode. And we're just going to look at the screens and see if there's going to be any changes. There's the time mode, and see it went off. And theoretically, if I twist it, it should come on, which it's not behaving. Or I could touch a button to bring it on. There's your basic fitness information of heart rate. It appears it's really times out fast. Maybe step count, calories burned, and distance traveled. That's typically what's there. Press it again, and now I get to this page. That is a bigger display of your step count information. And once more takes you to the heart rate page that will continuously monitor your heart rate, and this display will stay on 24/7. At that level of brightness, which note is considerably brighter than the ambient display we just looked at on the original smartwatch mode, right? Okay, so you got a feel for what these look like. We have to press and hold to boot out of this thing. And it has to reboot back up again, really bright white. You can easily see the edge-to-edge display now, huh? It's so bright it's like washing out the camera. So we have really good brightness on this watch, giving you the Kospet logo. Again, and I'm not rushing through this, I want you guys to get a feel for how long it takes to just come out of the long standby mode into the Android mode so you could actually use it as an Android smartwatch. Some of you may be timing it. If you looked at the second count from the moment that the screen went off, from the moment that I pushed the button until right now, you have the time it takes to get back out of that mode into this one. All right, we're ready for the update. Again, if you get it, oh, now it's gone because we did all this rebooting. But if you got it there, you could have done the installation there. Otherwise, go to Settings, go to the bottom, About. You've made note of your build number, and now you come back up to Wireless Update. If there's something waiting, it'll say New Version. If it's not sure and it hasn't checked, it'll say to check it. You'll hit the button down here. We do have a new version. We're going to hit download, and it's going to begin downloading from the server to the watch. There's 2 steps. One, to download the package, and secondly, to choose whether to install now or install later to update the watch. This I'll skip ahead for you. We're at 100%. My lighting is so bright here. Well, I'll tell you, it says install now or install later. It's kind of cut off because we have it in the round instead of the square version. I'm going to say install now. It tells me a little bit about the software update process. Will take a few minutes, and please refrain from excessive operations. I recommend no operations. Make sure your watch is charged at least 30%. I try to charge it all the way up, at least 100%. 50% would be the minimum. And you say OK. And now it's compressing the process. There we got the push notification. And now it's turning the watch off, and then it's going to install that new firmware update. Now, after the installation, it's going to reboot again all over. and it's going to come back to you with the update installed. And here we are. Preparing and firmware updated. Okay, so we went from one version to another, and it says installation is complete. Current battery power, make sure that the power is above 30%. Plug in the charger if it's low. Now, this was the first reboot and update. This is a dual processor watch. This is going to give you another step that you normally don't see in firmware updates on other watches. This is the first one. We scroll down here, and it says that the screen may be black for 1 to 2 minutes, and then it'll vibrate and prompt you not to force a shutdown, okay? And that means to continue. Real critical you follow all this stuff, or you could, I guess, brick your watch and could cause a real problem. So follow with me. When you get this screen, hit that check mark, and now it says uploading. Now, we already saw that it was going to go through and do an installation process once. Now it's doing it a second time. Again, I'll be back when this is complete. Now, of course, during this process, do not press the buttons. Do not attempt to turn the watch off. Okay? Just let it complete. And now it's disconnecting, and it says the firmware has been updated. Hit the check mark, and boom, we are back. But that little intermediary step is really important because it applies to that always time bracelet mode that's handled by the second processor. Okay, here we are. Are we done? No, we're not. There's another real important step I'm going to recommend you do. Unless you've loaded it up with a bunch of apps and data that you don't want to lose, I highly recommend the next thing you do, without doing anything else, is come over here, go into settings, go all the way down, and you see this thing that says reset equipment? We're going to do a complete reset of the watch, just to make sure we clear out any old garbage that may be left over in cache files or something from the old version. Before we do that, let's sneak a peek though. Let's go into About Watch, go down to the bottom, and look at the version number. It's 1.5 as of 2019, May 23rd. I'm filming this on May the 28th now. So yeah, we're really right on top of everything. Okay, we've got that there. Now, we're going to come back and check that one more time, but not until we have reset the equipment. Okay, you can have all your settings turned on if you want to, if you set everything up for backing up to your Google account. Probably if it's fresh out of the box, you don't have that. Do a factory data reset. It tells you it's going to erase everything and reset the watch. Erasing everything. We got one last chance to bail out. I definitely want to do it. So there we go. And takes us back, turns it off, and reboots again after wiping out the watch. And again, we'll be back in a moment. Now, because we erased everything, we are literally starting over from scratch. This is what you get when you got it out of the box. So I'm going to take a moment to show you all of the languages that are in here. That way I don't waste time at the beginning of this whole video for those that don't care. And for those of you still sticking in here, or you're wanting to make sure your language is represented, this gives you a feel for what the watch will handle. Okay? There are a lot of languages supported. I'm pretty sure this is across the board on all of these dual processor Android watches, because they're all pretty much coming from the same situation. Lots of different versions of English as well, and the default selected should just be basically United States English. If it's shipped here to the USA, it may be different in your country. Anyway, here's where you set the language you want. You confirm that, you set up your weight, height, and target. You don't need to do it now. If it, you can always do this later, because we may be doing more reboots if there's anything needed to. Now we're getting into that WIiWare app. This is all the stuff you scan the QR code to install the app. and then you go through this whole Bluetooth thing, and then it's going to ask you in the app to scan this QR code to pair. We have a whole video out on doing that, so we're just going to bail out of that and get back to our watch face, which starts over at the very beginning again. And now, what you got to do is put your watch on Wi-Fi and check for another update. I'll be right back. That's done now. I have it connected to my Wi-Fi, and the Wi-Fi is on. Just going to leave everything else as it is for our demo. We're doing the same thing we did before now, going into settings. We're going all the way down to about the watch. We're looking at the build number. We're coming back up to wireless update. It's now going to check to see if there's been an update since that update, and it says there hasn't been, so we're on the latest version. Sometimes if you get a watch, it's been sitting on the vendor's shelf for a while, and there have been 2 or 3 different updates, you're going to find that you may need to do multiple updates. And in between each and every one of them, I would highly suggest that you do that factory restore each time, and then check it again and check it again. I know it's a bit of work, but it's worth it in the long run. I'm going to change my timeout, and I'm going to turn always time on so we can see what it looks like. Looks the same to me, quick flash bright, and then it dims down. Might even be a little bit dimmer than it was before. What do you guys think? Very quickly dims down. Okay. How about fitness? Did they fix the fitness with GPS integration? Have they updated this app? No. It's not asking for GPS. It's not flashing the blue icon. And we can bail out of it with just a touch instead of a push. So there hasn't been an update yet in that firmware to do the GPS to fitness integration. The last thing we wanted to look at was the long standby. We have the option still for always time. Okay, I'm going to turn it off because I want to really test that twist your wrist thing with you. Now we're going to reboot the watch internally over to the second processor that's going to do the long battery life display options. There it is. Now I really like to see if I have it on my wrist. I know a lot of you guys do too. And I twist it. There, it lit up. And how long does it stay on? That long. And there's no changing that. There's no modifying that setting. It just plain is. Okay. The second screen looks like this, no change. And the third screen on the heart rate looks like this. And that looks the same to me. So in everything that we tested before we did the firmware update, I don't see any difference in any of these parameters. So whatever fixes there were, they're more subtle or hidden. And if we know what they are, I'll list them down in the show notes below this full video so you can see what the latest firmware version has brought to this watch. But all in all, there you go, the Kospet Optimus Pro. Now, I'll leave you with a couple of things here. First of all, a shout out again to Fuzz. Fuzz did his own review. This guy got this before any of the rest of us did. He said he got it today, which was actually day before yesterday. Mine arrived yesterday, but it took me today to get it. So he's had it for a couple of days. He says the build quality seems to be great. It's metal, ceramic, removable straps. I'll attest to that. You saw earlier in the full review on this, some of that. It looks pretty good. Hardware's very good. Software, not so much. A couple of pretty common features are missing. Find My Phone is not in this. Remote camera's not there, etc. I also don't really like the new better screen resolution, as the text sometimes is too small. Tethering to the phone is pretty useless with the Y Watch 2 app. Is working only partially, as the watch faces can't be sent from the phone to the watch for some reason. Not a big deal, really. Now, that may be something that was fixed with this firmware, but he's the one that advised we update it, so I don't know. There's no GPS integration with the fitness app still, which really sucks. Heart rate seems to be pretty accurate. Battery backup seems to be pretty good, with SIM card installed and everything on. GPS, cellular, Wi-Fi, and Bluetooth, all 4 radios. A lot of screen on time, many app installations and such. I was at 75% after 5 hours. So I guess it'll be much better with normal use. Raising hand turns on screen on 9 out of 10 times, and the screen comes on pretty fast, he says. Camera's average, takes all right pictures when there's a lot of light, and it's pretty useless when it's in the dark. That's true of all these watch cameras. The bracelet mode works well, not perfect, but pretty good. I give it a 4 out of 5 stars. I hope the GPS fitness thing gets fixed by an update sometime soon. So do I. You hear that, Kospet? You hear that? All of you guys making these dual processor smartwatches. Give us GPS integration. Otherwise, the single processor watches are a better deal for those of you who use fitness on these watches. There you go. Last thing, and I've showed you a couple of times, going to show you once more. You know, we thrive on your views and your purchases. Our sponsors are the ones that send these out. Kospet has sent out the initial one that we're looking at right now, and there's a production unit just the way you'll get it on its way from Banggood, who is our sponsor on this. You can pick up this watch using the link in the show notes directly from Banggood at a discounted price. When we get a coupon available for you, I'll be putting it there and constantly updating it as they give us new coupons if they have them. Okay, that's it now. We are definitely out of here. Again, thanks for watching. Thanks for your support. And wow, thanks for hanging in there for 2 months for us to finally get this review for you. Oh yeah. And if you subscribe, you get the added benefit of a comparison video coming up real soon between this one and all of the others to show you which ones are better at what and how you can make your decision on which of these watches will be best for you. So stay tuned for that. We'll see you soon.